Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first CTA Reverse Pitch webinar. This is Elisa Chiu, founder of Anchor Taiwan and your host for the session today. For those of you who are not very familiar with Taiwan yet, it's an island about the same size as Vancouver Island, but with a population of over 23 million people. Taiwan shares many similarities with Canada. Both people are open, modest, and innovative. We also have many differences that provide opportunities for win-win collaboration. As a Canadian Taiwanese who focuses on cross-border innovation and ecosystem building, I am beyond thrilled to invite two speakers from leading Taiwanese corporates, one from the semiconductor industry and another from the ICT sector. During a regular pitch session, startup founders pitch their ideas and companies to investors or corporates. Today, we are doing the opposite. The two speakers will be sharing a bit about their background, companies that they're a part of, how to best partner with them, and why you should pursue them as your investor or partner in Asia. Without further ado, let's meet our speakers. Bruce, why don't we start with you? Would you like to say hi to our audience and introduce yourself?
I'm Bruce Bateman. I run the innovation and startup platform at LITEON Technologies. We're under the office of the chairman. I've been a serial entrepreneur, done 9 successful startups and an IPO with one of them. And so I mentor a lot. I mentor as a global mentor for Canada, and I also mentor a lot of companies here in Taiwan, a lot of the startups. So I'm really happy to be here today, and thanks for inviting me.
My name is James Yan, VP of UMC Capital. I'm a scientific person with a training in life science and biomedical engineering majors, but I've been working in the field of venture investment over a decade. On top of the time in UMC Capital, I have about 10 years working experience in financial return-driven venture capitals.
Today we have two speakers, one with quite a lot of entrepreneurial experiences before, and the other one with really 20 years of experience in the venture capital sector. So I'm sure that it's going to be a very informative session. And I think for our audience in Canada, they probably are not very familiar with both LITEON and UMC. So why don't we start with a bit of introduction of your company? Let's start with you, Bruce.
Sure. So LITEON was established in 1975. We're one of the original makers of LEDs. Company is now diverse. It's about an $8 billion US revenue. We make everything from EV car components to the lights for cars. We're the largest maker of high-end keyboards and mice. We are in the power industry. We power a lot of the data centers that are out there.
As the name suggests, light on. So
yes.
You're an expert with anything related to light.
Photonics, yeah. Anything in light.
From your keyboards, your mouse, and I think previously a lot of electronics devices, but these days into mobility and also smart cities. Yep. I used to tell my friends in Silicon Valley that if you take Caltrain and when you look up, the lights along the trail, they were probably manufactured by LITEON. Can you tell us a little bit about UMC?
Sure. UMC is our parent company. Its name stands for United Microelectronics Corporation. But in the public, we are still best known as UMC in the semiconductor industry. UMC is a 42-years-old company, founded in 1980. We totally have 12 production fabs in Asia and worldwide over 20,000 employees. UMC is the first IC company when public in Taiwan, consistently ranked in top 15 by market cap. Now they're listed on Taiwan and the New York Stock Exchange. In 2021, the revenue was $7.7 billion US dollars, which makes us the global number 3 of market share in chip manufacturing business. Unlike TSMC is always pursuing the technology of trimming the chip size, UMC is more open-minded, or I should say more venture spirit. on exploring the applications of the chip. Clients including some big names like Broadcom, TI, and Samsung. UMC simply plays a pure foundry model, which means we don't have our own brand products. UMC used to be more like an incubator to cultivate its potential customers, such as smartphone chip design house, the MediaTek, is the strongest competitor to Qualcomm, or the Novatech, the world's largest display chip designer. Today, they all become the key players in the industry. So over time, UMC has built a strong network across the entire value chain in the semiconductor industry. So I definitely can say that UMC is a leading company in the global semiconductor industry and truly an iconic company of Taiwan.
Both LITEON and UMC, with history of over 40 years and revenue annually about US 8 billion-ish. So a lot of similarities when it comes to both of you focus on contract manufacturing. So basically, like creating value along the value chain, but then don't really focus on brand building yourself. So you focus a lot on working with other brands and other partners along the way. And now I'm curious in terms of how you work with the innovation ecosystem, particularly with the startups. I know that each corporates might have different strategies. Some would stand alone CVC teams or funds or different programs. How do you work with, say, for example, your M&A teams and internally, if a startup founders would like to get in touch and work with you, what's the best way to navigate? Can you give us some information?
So we have two sides. So the first side is the corporate CVC, which is we invest two ways. One is just a pure investment. We do some funds, very few funds of funds, but it's just investing for investment purpose. Maybe it's a strategic. Then there's the second side, which is purely strategic, and people have to then work with the business units. So for startups, it's a little more difficult, and this is where the second stage comes in. But it's difficult because you got to understand how you merge with corporates, the cultural differences, and just not just product, but how you come in. And so what we've created, which is the innovation startup platform, is to help the startups to come to LITEON. On our third floor, we have a brand new innovation center and allow you to come there, work there, become familiar with how we function. And because you can't just come in. There's a lot of little things. For example, how a business unit, so we call them BUs, business units, how the BU works with you and how the BU acquires you is very, very particular. And we can't just, it's not like the US where you just buy a company, everybody merges. It doesn't work that way. Because you're probably going to stay partially in Canada, and some of you will come here. So how you work, and so our innovation center is designed to help startups come in, and the startups that come in can be related to things that we do at LITEON or not. We look for people who are innovative, who have great ideas. We're looking for things that are cool.
So Bruce, as far as I know, you and your team works kind of like a conduit between your corporate mothership and the startup, because culturally there's just so many differences. It's kind of like Romeo and Juliet.
And I'm not saying culture as in different countries. Mm-hmm. I'm saying culture as in a startup to a corporate.
Exactly.
Yeah, and because a corporate has certain, whereas a startup can be flexible, it can do things. You can change a chip. Yeah. Well, in a corporate world, you can't just go change a chip. Mm. There's a lot of ramifications of changing that chip. Because what's the thermal on it? What's the power usage on it? There's a lot of things. And then how do we make that? How do we SOJ? How do we put that on the board?
And can you share a little bit more information with us in terms of, say, for example, the M&A team, they probably focus more on the later stage companies and probably a little bit more financial driven with a little bit of strategic angles.
Right.
For you and your team, it seems like you focus more around strategic kind of like perspective.
So yes and no. So if it's strategic, then you have to work with the BU. But what we're looking for is people who are actually just purely innovative. So if you have an innovative idea that may or may not be related to us, we're still interested. So we'll talk about the fields we're interested in, but when people come to us with an interesting camera idea or interesting surveillance product, or then yes, we're interested. We have people in the AR, VR world and people making haptics products in our teams, and we have people doing wireless tracking. Or it's not wireless, everything's location-based tracking. So it's those kind of things that really don't have to directly deal with our current production. But, you know, as a company, we want to grow, and we need to see what's going on. So this is why we're very interested in working with the startups, because the startups have the ideas, and then we need to see where's the market. When we talk about the technologies that we're looking for people who are truly innovative. As much, you know, we're not looking for fintech, because we can't do fintech. We're not looking for NFT or any of those kind of, anything in the finance, insurance area, because we can't legally do those things. But people who have even software ideas for smart city grids, for power management, for home management, for anything, people with some good, we're working with a good Canadian company now that's doing wireless transmission of electricity.
How about you, James? UMC Capital was established in 2001.
Yep.
So it's over 20 years ago, very well established. Can you also share a little bit in terms of how you work with UMC, the mothership, the stage that you're interested in, AUM, teams, and so on and so forth?
Yes, Elisa, just as you said, we are the venture arm of and 100% owned by UMC. So our mission is to serve the parent company with the function of scouting, exploring, screening, and selecting the potential investment target. And of course, this potential investment target are aligned with the marketing strategy of UMC, or can be linked up with its semiconductor ecosystem. So, and we regularly join the meetings of the technology department of UMC. So the information can be synchronized on both sides. So as you see that there is no barrier between we and UMC. We can talk to each other and exchange the thoughts freely anytime. However, there is another practical consideration. UMC Capital is an independent company, and it has to be responsible for its operating performance. So we dynamically adjust the proportion of portfolio with strategic and financial purposes. The decision is based on market situation. If the market goes up, we will increase the portion of investment, financial investment, and vice versa. So now UMC Capital has a team of 22 people and offices in Taipei and Shanghai. Our AUM, the so-called asset under management, is around $500 million US dollars. And we have invested hundreds of cases over the last 20 years. More than half are locked in Taiwan, and the rest are located in the US, China, Israel, South Korea, Japan, and other places. Our investment stage is flexible. We can do it from the early stage, like Series A, to the late stage beyond the IPO. So we really do not have any preference on specific investment stage. But in the most of cases, the ticket size for a startup is starting from $1 million US. And on average, we need at least 2 months for our due diligence to close a deal. Sometimes it will take longer if the legal documents need back and forth discussions. So that's it.
Great, a lot of useful information and very relevant practical information for startups that might be interested in talking to UMC Capital, or over 20 years with a team of more than 20 and 500 million USD evergreen structure. So in terms of how much you invest will depends also on the economics conditions and so on and so forth.
Yes.
Great. And how about the areas that you're interested in? What kind of future do you want to bring for your mothership? I know that both of you probably serve kind of like as a radar for your corporates. So can you share a little bit with us in terms of what excites you? What kind of technologies that you are looking for? Bruce?
So I think we probably have similar areas that we're looking for, and power grids, EV charging area. So they make the chips. We actually make the systems. So you need them both. So how to make EV charging, anything a lot of work in silicon photonics. We have a optics group. So silicon photonics is also big. New things like hydrogen. We're very big in looking at so hydrogen is the creation, the storage, the transportation, the usage. So those are areas we're also very interested in. Smart city, anything in city power grid management, street light management, traffic management. We don't do ADAS in the automotive world. We do things like ECUs, the controllers. We do the network in the car. We do networking in data centers, which is sort of part of the data center to the edge. We do 5G small cell products, millimeter wave. So we're looking for things that are a little bit in that, people who are thinking a little bit farther ahead. So if you're thinking today, then you work with the BU. If you're thinking 3 to 5 years from now, you work with me. And we help you develop not only that product, but also the ecosystem that you need to be involved in understanding. So those are kind of the areas that, new materials. So if you have new materials, if you have new battery materials, you have a new, anything new, even in textiles, we're interested in that. So we see a lot of stuff in wearables coming. We see a lot of technologies in AR, VR coming. A lot of headset technologies. We make a lot of the cameras for the VR companies and for their haptics and gesture. So things like that we're very interested in. We see a lot of new startups helping in our factory. So that is another area that we're interested in, is people who can help us make our factory more efficient. And that's an area we have actually a couple of startups now that are in that field, looking at motor decay, looking at traffic management of the floor, looking at how efficient a line is using AI to look at the line and looking at the people working and how the efficiency is. So those are kind of areas that we are also interested in.
Yeah, and I think, James, how about you? What are you interested in these days when it comes to looking for new ideas and new teams to work with?
Oh, yes. Our major focus is targeting in high-tech and deep-tech fields, including semiconductor, value chain, automotive and industrial solutions, healthcare, and digital business. Some frontier technologies like space tech and quantum computing are also on our radar screen.
And carbon. So one of the things that we are looking for startups is any startup that can help us with technology on reduction of our of our carbon footprint.
And I think both of you have worked with startups or invested into startups from previously Industry 4.0 to make factories more efficient to now specific solutions for ESG or the UN SDGs related areas. That's fantastic. How about when it comes to your strategies with international startups, particularly if you, and I know Bruce, have already worked with the Canadian startups. What have you observed when it comes to the ecosystem over there? What interests you the most? Can you share a little bit of perspectives around that?
So the Canadian companies I work with are really good. They know their product, they know their technology. Some of them are in the AI field, so they know their stuff. Area that we help them on is this design for manufacturability. How do I take a product and be able to manufacture it at a cost? So they don't understand the total supply chain, because like James was saying, in a car there's 3,000 chips. Well, there's another 100,000 resistors, capacitors, and power management, and so there's all of those things. And for example, if you're doing space or you're doing automotive, there are specific kinds of chips you have to use. And there's specific temperature ranges and things. So these are the areas where we have to help people.
Yeah, a few tech areas that cross my mind are business in AI, EV battery, hydrogen and the fuel cell, and of course the healthcare. I think which I have heard of are the trends of Canada. So I think these tech fields are absolutely a right fit to us.
Great. You're definitely at the right place. I think CTA, the Canadian Technology Accelerator, supported by the government, this is where you can find a lot of great deal flow and to start your engagements with the startup ecosystem in Canada. And from what I heard, currently you focus more around the fund-of-fund strategies. On top of that, you do direct investments with your GP partners on the ground. So I think for Canadian startups, there are still a lot of opportunities to work with UMC Capital. Great. Now we want to get into the reverse pitch part. The best teams, always, there's money chasing after them. So why don't you tell our audience, why should they work with LITEON, or why should they work with UMC Capital? Bruce.
So I guess we do a 15-second pitch. So I think for us, for startups, it's when you get to that unknown and you don't understand how to get to market with your product, then you come and we help you. If you have experienced people on your team, you don't need us. But a lot of people don't understand the process of making consumer electronics or medical electronics products. So when you come to us because you need help understanding that. And that's really why startups come to us. And the second part, the reason startups come to us is because they want access to understanding manufacturing. They want to get into that, their technologies in that area. And mass manufacturing, we have 47 factories around the world. So being able to help us with that. So we see a lot of that. But the reason you come to us is because you also, being in Taiwan, it gives you a good place to launch into the rest of Asia. It gives you a good place to understand the cultures of Asia. And it's a good place to be it's not expensive to live here. Transportation is very easy. You don't need a car here. And the weather's great here most of the time. And so for people to come here, understand their supply chain, understand their manufacturing, helping them understand the rest of Asia, getting into India and Europe, that's kind of areas where we can help. And the people who come to us are those who, again, are a little more mature in their product, and they're coming upon a roadblock where a customer has, being in a startup, it's really funny. You dream about the big order, but then you got the big order.
Then you're like,
Yeah, and then there's a technical term, you're screwed. You got to now figure out, because how are you going to fund this? How are you going to fund? You can fund 10 products, you can fund maybe 1,000, but when now it comes to 100,000, and your product has been selected to be on Amazon, to be in Best Buy, and in Media Mart in Europe, you've got to have the inventory. How are you going to do that? And then how do you then ship logistically between all those different countries? So how do you make a product that goes to many countries? These are all the areas that startups, that's why they come to us. They don't come to us to design a product because they've already done that. They come to us to really understand how to grow.
And how to scale. I think that's
Yeah.
really important, like who to go to and when. And I think one word that I keep hearing is DFM, design for manufacturing. So even when you have a really innovative product, how do you actually grow from maybe hundreds of them to thousands and thousands of them, and use you as kind of like a springboard to other markets in Asia, if not the world, and also utilize a lot of your supply chain and factory network. How about you, James?
Oh yeah, let's make it simple. I must say that the UMC Capital is well-known, well-organized CVC in Taiwan, and one of a few has a complete team dedicating on innovative investment over 20 years. So we are continuing to build an ecosystem within our portfolio. So the companies in that may become partners to each other. And through UMC, we have established a good and solid connection with IT industry. So if you are a hardware startup, we definitely have abundant resources can assist. But if you are not, no worries, we still can be an intermediary to introduce you the right partner for you through VC network.
Great, because as you mentioned, you have already invested into more than 100 companies. The portfolio companies themselves, they're like an ecosystem already. They help each other, and then you can actually make referrals.
What we are doing right now.
Yeah, and with a history of more than 20 years in business, I'm sure that the connections with the ecosystem are really, really solid. That's fantastic. So to close, any advice or tips that you would give for our audience from Canada?
We definitely welcome the innovative startups to approach us. But if you are in the seed or angel round, that might not be suitable for us because some restrictions on by the accounting policies. Otherwise, please be sure to prepare a non-confidential presentation with as much detail as possible. That will give us a better understanding to your company in the beginning. And for the startup, few things or I say criteria we are most concerned about. People is always the first key point that we most value add. Because only with the right team, then you can have the good result. The second is you must have your entry barrier, whatever is technology or business model. And the last is always dare dream of and aim for a big market. So Canadian startup, if you are ready, we're here anytime waiting for you.
Thank you, James and Bruce, for such an informative session. For our audience in Canada, I hope this provides useful information for your future expansion into Asia through Taiwan. Please reach out to our speakers if you have further questions or if you are ready to get in touch for a pitch. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in Taiwan very soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks. Look
See you
forward to meeting
guys.
you guys.